There is very little that I can say about Waluigi that hasn't been said already. This man's entire existence is the result of Wario needing a doubles partner in Mario Tennis, and yet he's such an expressive and goofy character that he's kinda begging for a game of his own. And yet there has been no indication that he will ever get one, and while nobody knows the future for sure, if I were a betting man, I'd say he probably won't get one ever. It's fun to imagine what it might look like though. Would it be a platformer like Mario, an exploration-based environmental game like Luigi's Mansion, a beat-em-up isometric thing like Wario World, or would it be something completely out there, something way out of line, like a first-person shooter or a Souls-like? That'd be funny.
This looks too easy. You're cheating!
The thing is, a game about Waluigi has to be built around Waluigi. Luigi is a timid and perpetually frightened man, and the Luigi's Mansion titles are deliberately designed around that fact. If those are his key character traits, those games play directly into that at every opportunity. Wario, on the other hand, is a greedy mountain of sweat and muscles, so it's only natural that his games would be about smashing through bricks to get treasures and chase that big money. And then you have Waluigi, who is a showboating fountain of vanity and flamboyance, so what does a Waluigi game have to look like to play into that? Well, one answer was to open a taco stand. Now I'm getting all nostalgic. But way back before even that, in the ancient time period of 2011, the fans attempted to answer that question with a game called Psycho Waluigi, and right off the bat, I have to give 1 billion points just for that title. How can you not play a game called Psycho Waluigi? Of course, from the title alone, it's impossible to know whether this is the greatest game ever made, or the most outlandishly stupid game ever made. The premise of this game is that Waluigi now has psychic powers. A disembodied voice in his head reveals to him that he has psychic powers and immediately fills his head with dreams of world domination, putting him on an evil quest. Waluigi must literally overthrow several kings and queens to become the new ruler of every region and ultimately the universe. But it's not all smooth sailing, for he is faced by his arch nemesis General Hazel, an army general and OC intended to be the stand-in for Captain Syrup. At least that's what the wiki says. From an audiovisual standpoint, Psycho Waluigi isn't some dramatic technical leap, but it is fun to watch and to listen to. The graphics are most reminiscent of the Game Boy Advance, but the original sprite work is pretty solid. Waluigi does look a little compressed, like a Luigi with a bigger head. I can picture a lankier, wider sprite in my head that better captures his marvelous physique, but I couldn't make it myself, so maybe I shouldn't complain. Animations are smooth and enemies are mostly easy to read. Background details and environments are varied and great to look at. In addition to this, the game also contains remixed songs that reference all kinds of games that Wario and Waluigi aficionados should be familiar with, so if you don't recognize some of these bangers, then you're a fake fan. Don't shoot the messenger, I don't make the rules. Psycho Waluigi doesn't feel like a knockoff version of an existing game, although there are definitely influences everywhere, most notably Wario Land, but with everything they added, it feels like a brand new experience. There is a Nintendo-ish element of inventiveness and creativity to this game that I don't always associate with fan games. It has a relatively consistent volume of new mechanics and surprises, which is a defining element of Nintendo's best works. Waluigi's psychic powers are far more than just a one-trick pony intended for chucking enemies around the screen, although that is a lot of fun. Waluigi can actually hold enemies with his mind and force them to attack other enemies or use their powers for his own benefit. You can freeze people using this guy, summon lightning strikes with this guy, shoot fire with a piranha plant. You can get an evil star and harness its power for invincibility. How's that for star revenge? One of my favorite levels is this one, where you destroy the clouds using the psychic powers, and it's incredible. You can pick up almost anything and throw them at enemies. You can chuck bricks at people and then instantly grab pieces of the brick and throw them at other bricks. The level design is largely good. Every level is distinct and offers up a new variety of gameplay and challenges to keep you on your toes. It definitely doesn't get boring or stale. Levels also have secret pathways and collectibles that you can get. Like I noticed I could take one of these bouncy trampoline things up the level with me, so I did it assuming that I could use it to get a secret, and lo and behold, there was a secret, and I felt amazing. That is a mark of good game design. I really felt like I just had a completely subconscious conversation with the game designers. And that's something that the game is incredible at. When the game is at its best, it feels extremely intentional and carefully thought out. But of course, no game is always at its best, and this game is no exception to that unfortunate reality. Probably my biggest issue with this game is that it wasn't playtested. Straight up, they made one draft of the game and said it was probably fine. No playtesting required. You cannot convince me that the game was playtested. I will not believe you in the slightest, no matter what. Explosions have a blast radius that is twice the size of the physical visual indicator. This cloud thing is almost impossible to control. Scrolling levels are bad, just straight up. And when you die and respawn, you don't get any of the time back, even though enemies and bosses are fully restored, which means if you hit a tough part that's probably gonna kill you a bunch, you get less and less time to complete it every single time you respawn. I remember I was just getting the hang of this boss fight when I ran out of time because I died and respawned too many times and didn't get back any of the time I already spent. That was a fucking disaster. I almost died in real life after that happened. And the icing on the cake is that any gems or high score stuff that you found up until you die and respawn, which actually are important for buying upgrades, that's gone. Yeah, that's fair. Sometimes I feel like I'm being too harsh for torching fan projects like this, but the thing about Psycho Waluigi is that it's honestly an incredible game that I think is held back by some insanely frustrating shit. And that's the tragedy of doing something so great, is that people just expect that much more from you. I loved playing this game. It felt new and fresh, like something I hadn't played 300 times. It was different and somehow also very fitting of Waluigi, and I think most of the problems with this game could be fixed. And I cannot help but imagine how insanely good this game could be without these dumb bastard moments dragging it down. Even with all that stuff going against it, Psycho Waluigi really does feel like a game that was actually made with a spark of inspiration. It feels thought out and deliberate. It's definitely not perfect, but even with an official big budget AAA game, perfection is an unrealistic expectation, let alone for an independently made fan game. Again, it is because the game is so excellent outside of its flaws that I criticize it so passionately. I only do it because I love Waluigi. I would love to see a revamped, remastered version of this game one day, but if you can put up with some of the game's more frustrating moments, this is definitely worth your time, and otherwise, Waluigi deserves respect. Now don't forget to tune in to tomorrow's video. Can you guess what it is? I won't give it away, but I gotta warn ya, it's pretty cursed. Maybe even beyond cursed.
Wah! Have a nice summer, cheater.